Welcome, everyone. Welcome to SSUC's online gathering for January 30th, 2022. Our 23rd Affirming anniversary. 23 years. We've been a place where we are all, without exception, spiritual seekers united in community. We're a community that tries to create a place of radical inclusivity. We're a community that extends this welcome to all ages, all sizes, all colors, all cultures, all genders, all sexualities, all religions or none at all abilities, all types, all statuses. In short, all people. We are also a community who focuses on the 4 pillars of our identity, celebrating diversity in all its expressions. So important. Making a positive difference in our lives and in our work for justice in the world. So critical to who we are. Inspiring compassion and connection. How could we be a community without that? And engaging our lives with spiritual depth as we strive to always be our better and more deeply human selves. This is why we call ourselves spiritual community. Wherever you're joining us from today, you can be who you are, just as you are. Just as you're becoming. And that's how we build a safer place together with each other. So welcome again. Welcome from Edmonton, acknowledging Treaty 6 territory and land upon which we honor the history and tradition and spirituality and ongoing relationship with, to name a few, the Cree, the Métis, and all those who call this place home and traveling route. Today is a special day for us, our chance to celebrate our stories and our connection in this open and affirming community. Whether you need us just today to get you through, whether you have a long history with our community or are seeking a safer place to explore, you belong. And so, along with Pam at the piano, with Zoe, who we'll hear from a little later, along with Dara and Noah running our technology, we welcome you. We invite you in. Here we are together. All of us matter. Welcome to community. Our Time for All Ages story this morning is a beautiful, symbolic metaphor, a beautiful parable of what today is all about. It's an affirming story. It's a process story. It's a coming out story. But it all happens in the life of the crayon box. So let's, thanks to Pam, let's share this story together. It's entitled Red, and it's a crayon story. It's written by Michael Hall.
He was red, but he wasn't very good at it.
Oh dear.
His teacher thought he needed more practice. I'll draw a red strawberry, then you draw a red strawberry. You can do this, really. But he couldn't, really.
Like this?
Oh my. Let's try again. His mother thought he had to mix with other colors.
Why don't you two go out and draw a nice round orange?
A really big one.
A really orange one.
But they made a big greenish one. Yuck. Oops. His grandparents thought he wasn't warm enough.
Your class is making self-portraits for Parents' Night. Wear this warm red scarf.
Nice. It's so you. But it so wasn't. Oh, dear me. Everyone seemed to have something to say.
Sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all.
Don't be silly. It says red on his label.
He came that way from the factory.
Frankly, I don't think he's very bright.
Well, I think he's lazy. Right. He's got to press harder.
Really apply himself.
Give him some time. He'll catch on.
Of course he will. But he didn't catch on.
Green frog.
Black sheep.
Brown cow.
Red ack. All the art supplies wanted to help.
The masking tape thought he was broken inside. This will help you hold you together.
The scissors thought his label was too tight. One snip should do it.
I thought he wasn't sharp enough. Stay still now.
But even with all our help and all his hard work, he just couldn't get the hang of it. One day, he met a new friend. Will you make a blue ocean for my boat?
I can't. I'm red.
Will you try? So he did. Thank you. It's perfect.
You're welcome. It was easy.
And he didn't stop there. Blue jeans, bluebells, bluebird, blueberries, blue whale. I'm blue. He was blue, and everyone was talking.
My son is brilliant.
Who could have known he was blue?
I always said he was blue.
It was obvious.
His blue ocean really lifted me.
All of his work makes me happy.
His blue strawberries are my favorites.
He's so intense.
I'm going to make a green lizard with him, a really big one, said Yellow.
I hear he's working on a new project.
He's really reaching for the sky.
And he really was.
No matter what part of the gender or sexuality or human spectrum we're on, we all have to come to terms at some point in our lives with who we are in relation to ourselves, in relation to the labels others have placed on us, and in relation to who we evolve and grow into becoming. This is being human. It is painful not to be recognized for who you are. And today we celebrate those who are bold, who are courageous enough to be who they are, regardless of the pain and the hurts of the past, and come to live the lives that match the true colors of their heart. One of the most important foundations of expansive spirituality is that we first and foremost affirm the inerrant and equal worth of all people. That we are all valuable. If we don't do that, if we don't have that, then we struggle to do anything else. We can't productively work deeply on our connection to ourselves and our connection to others. We can't easily take in new wisdom, make balanced choices, or chart a positive future if first we are not valued, we are not affirmed, we are not seeing ourselves and each other as a vital part of this world. As a community, we affirm that there is no one way to be. We're a rainbow of diversity in the way we are part of this community. We also need to affirm that there's no one way to be a part of the LGBTQ2S+ community. Everyone is unique. There is no one way to express our allyship. But we do have this in common. First and foremost, we are all worthy. We are all valuable. Not in spite of, but because we don't share one single story. But we are multitudes. And that brings us to the heart of today's gathering, our stories. You don't need to hear any more from me because today is about some of the people and the stories that make this beautiful, affirming community what it is, a place of openness and acceptance, a place to be affirmed. I hope you find meaning and connection in these stories, in their courage, and in their beauty.
You are water, you are stardust, you are wind.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Hilliard. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been a part of the SSUC community for a good chunk of years now. Oh, it feels like a long, long time, and I feel very, very lucky to be a part of the SSUC community. I think for me, I'm a gay woman. I came out when I was 15, and I came out in the 90s when it wasn't all that nice or safe to come out. And I had some family acceptance and some not so great experiences after coming out. And a lot of my friends at the time were coming out as well, and some of them had really negative experiences with their families, with their churches. They were kicked out of their homes. They weren't welcome in their church community anymore. And so for me growing up, I didn't have a really strong connection with the church as a teen, but watching what my friends had to go through and seeing the pain in their souls from being cast out from this community that they've been a part of for their entire family life was devastating. And so I knew that for me as a gay youth growing up, that church wasn't a place for me. And so I was always nervous to ever step into a church and be my full self, or I avoided them. It was just, it was an unsaid rule that if I went to a church and they found out I was gay, that I would be judged, I wouldn't be welcome, and goodness knows what else. So that was really sad that I grew up as a young adult feeling this, even though I hadn't experienced it myself. It was just like in the cultural milieu. And when I found SSUC, this, many churches in Edmonton had become affirming, by the time that I found the SSUC community. So I knew of that notion. I knew what it was like what it meant to be an affirming congregation, but I hadn't really fully seen it in practice. And so then, to be in a church with like rainbow flags and positive messaging around, to have an openly gay minister, it was just like a full mind-blowing, life-changing experience. And I think for me, the moment that it really, gelled or really sunk in for me was when I got to start working with Camp Dragonfly as the camp cook, as a volunteer, and getting to be there with my partner Allison, who helps to lead the camp, and to be openly her partner and to hold her hand and to show our love and our connection as a good thing to role model for these kids and to be proud of who we are. It was like this beautiful full circle moment that I felt so comfortable in my own skin, whereas growing up I hadn't in almost every single religious or spiritual space I had ever been in, and had subconsciously avoided because of that. So that I found to be such a great gift. And now whenever I'm in the building, I feel completely able to relax. I don't have any kind of, tension, or I don't have a guard up around me. And I feel and I know that I am celebrated for every bit of who I am. And I love that the SSUC community really challenges the assumptions around church and inclusion, particularly for folks of all ages and stages. I grew up being a little bit nervous to come out to folks of older than my parents' generation, for lots of different reasons. But everyone at SSUC has really, really surprised me in beautiful ways, because they've been so incredibly accepting, and it's such a gift. It's such a gift, and it's such a beautiful community to, I think, role model for other communities in the city and in the country. And I'm just really grateful. And it's a safe place that I get to refer other people to. I tell lots of my friends and family about it, people that might be looking for, a safe community to be themselves. I get to celebrate in your affirmingness and share it with the world, and it's just so great. So Yeah, happy anniversary. I'm so happy to be a part of the community. I love you all more than you know, and you've had such a big impact in my own personal life. So thank you. Mwah.
Mexico. Wilson is in Edmonton, but we would like to just share our thoughts with our beautiful faith community in Edmonton and say what a wonderful experience it has, and to be able to be a part of this community. Um, Wilson started attending Southminster Steinhauer when we probably in the first year that we were together. So we've been together now for 8 years, and we look forward to continuing our relationship, even though it's been of a distance. One of the things that has brought us together is the community within the church and the acceptance of the church to our own personal lives. We really find that wonderful to be a part of this wonderful community that has and continues to do so much for the betterment of both Edmonton and world in general, even by taking in refugees. I think what we would like to just say is that we hope that many more people, because we believe in strength in numbers, and we look forward to the fall suppers or the suppers in the fall, and just being able to get together again once COVID's all finished. So on behalf of Wilson and myself, thank you to our church, our faith community, for being a part of our lives. Thanks again.
Janet from an Affirming Planet at Southminster Steinhauer United Church. Here's my story. I came out as a lesbian in my mid-20s, which was in the 80s. And at that point in time, the United Church was just discussing the issues of having people who were gay and lesbian actually be in the clergy. One of the big conflicts that I had in my own life in coming out was I was going to have to give up the church, because it was my thought and my feeling that I couldn't be a lesbian and be a Christian. When I came out, I ended up staying out of the church circles, except that I would be there for the high holidays, the Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and the rest, and would just quickly look around to see who was still there. And people all knew me, but they all knew me as that good little Janet Campbell that would sing in the choir and be in Sunday school and try and do their church youth leadership and stuff like that, but not Janet Campbell, the lesbian. If they really knew who I was, it would be very different than I felt. Because as I sat in the question and answer group at Grace United Church, and when we were questioning that whole possibility at Grace United Church, I was there and I was sitting in the group, and it was the time frame when you had coffee in styrofoam cups. Not a good thing if you're nervous in a group, because the first time somebody that was sitting at the table next to me said, well, I'd even let one sit next to me, a gay person sit next to me. I immediately got so nervous that I managed to put my finger through the side of the cup and had coffee all down the front of me. But it sort of meant something to me, because it meant that I had to go underground again in order to be in the church. And I just couldn't do that anymore. I'd gone through times of being seriously depressed and had gone through group therapy at the evening hospital at the University of Alberta Hospital. And it was at the end of that time that I came out as a lesbian as well. But I wasn't ready to tell everybody else that yet. And I knew that I had to be very careful. Certainly, I told one of my cousins, first off, because she was a safe person to talk to. And Oddly enough, a few years later, she came out as a lesbian as well. And I told one of my brothers that I'm really, really close to, and my brothers, but of course, because of the fear of losing my family, losing my parents, losing my aunts and uncles, they were the last ones to know. So, parents, if you're hearing this news, or family members, if you're the last one to know and it seems like everybody else knows, it's the last people to find out that you are gay are the people that I fear the most I will lose the respect of and lose the time and the friendship with. After my dad died in 2006, I was kind of lost. I had stopped being in the Edmonton vocal minority because I'd been very busy looking after dad or being involved, and I was trying with my father and getting him sorted. And I didn't have a place to go, and I was in Beta Sigma Phi, and Kathy Playfair and is in Beta Sigma Phi, along with, at that time, Sandra Hildebrand was in Beta Sigma Phi. And Sandra Hildebrand asked the Playfairs if they wanted to come over to Southminster Steinhauer United Church to try that church out. And then Kathy said, Janet, they've got something there around gay stuff. Maybe you want to try and coming with us to the church. And so I said, well, what the heck? We'll try it one night. I'll try it. We'll try it I only have to go with them once. And so I did. And when I walked in to the church, lo and behold, half of Edmonton vocal minority were already there attending the service because that was their church. And they're going, hi, Janet. And all sorts of people from the Gay and Lesbian Community Center, which is now the Pride Center, were there in the church as well. And I sat at the back, and lo and behold, if wasn't the first songs that they sang was, how could anybody ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful, which was a major song that we sang with Edmonton Vocal Minority. And there I go, I start into tears. And then there's another one that said the song that you began with the service with at that time was come in and sit down. Everyone's part of the family. And I just love that song and have it memorized. But I was caught because the first service was about beauty and learning to accept yourself for beauty and for all the things that you have. And then as I came back to the church to other services, I started to heal from some of the stuff. I started to realize it was okay to be lesbian and it was okay to be Christian. And let's work on that journey together. And that is what Southminster Steinhauer has been for me, are places where I can work on that journey together to meld what it is to be Christian now, and with it being the lesbian, the woman, the person with a disability, the singer, and the whatever else, all together, all in one. Southminster Steinhauer has that magic. It's one of the only places that I've been in other than Edmonton Vocal Minority, but where I can actually meld all of those things together. Thank you for putting up with my comical attitudes, and thank you for eating the food that I've made and served, and thank you for allowing me to be part of the Southminster Steinhauer United Church family.
I wanted to talk more about what brought me to this stage of coming to an affirming church and some of my background. As a child, or as a youth, I should say, I suppressed anything that would make it appear that I was gay. And sometime in my 40s, I was confronted with that. They say coming out has many phases, and the first one is coming out to yourself. And so that was when my recognition that I was attracted to men was mid-40s about. So that led to separation from my marriage and a move from small town to Edmonton. And then the main challenge was, how do I fit in as a gay man, as an older gay man, okay? younger, attractive gay men, not a problem, but older men seemed to be an issue. And we found support in the Pride Center, had a group for men where actually David and I met for gay men. And I also went to a conference that was put on by HIV Edmonton on coming out, and part of that was learning about STIs and what to do about them. But it was mainly about how to deal with the psychological impacts of coming out at whatever age and stage of life you were. As part of the marriage breakup, I went to counseling. Some of you have heard this before because we did a talk after one of the Affirm luncheons some time ago. But the counselor said a couple of things that really have stuck with me. And one was that if you suppress your homosexuality or anything, it's like putting down a flotation device in water and it's going to come flying up in the air. So, maybe you should deal with it more calmly than trying to suppress it. The other thing she said to me that was impactful was consider the possibility of living with another man, which was unthinkable to me prior to that. I had seen a movie, it was probably 45 years ago now, of an older gay man, and the impression you got was he had his wonderful memories, but the impression was an older gay man could only be lonely. You could only live alone. So it's wonderful that we've found that there are other possibilities and that there's a community that can support us in that. Initially, we found support in refuge in a gay bar. There were 3 gay bars at the time, and Buddy's was the one we liked. If you came earlier in the evening, that was a time when we could feel free dancing as older men. Later, by 11, 12 o'clock, it was just roaring, but the young kids were there, and we felt a little bit uncomfortable dancing with them on the stage. We also had a group of friends that started a square dance group, and we saw a lot of them. My marital agreement, my separation agreement, said that my kids could not meet my gay friends. So that was terrible because there's a whole part of my life and my friendships that I was developing that they never knew about. But so as a result of that, David went to all of the square dances and I went to every other one, which was very confusing for him. I think a lot of my transition from being a married Baha'i man to being a gay man was covered with Qigong. A lot of the spiritual issues I had, I went to Qigong and I read a lot of Buddhist teachings like Thich Nhat Hanh. And then eventually when we stopped having all these other support groups, our friends were were more into the drag queen scene, which we weren't. Then I was looking for a spiritual group and I was looking for support and found that here at the church.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for your glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown 'em out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum.
Good morning, everyone. It is with complete joy I join you on the 23rd affirming anniversary of SSUC. Today is an opportunity for us to share the good news and to extend our heartfelt gratitude for all of the ways that SSUC has lived out its commitment to being an affirming congregation. Some of you may know that Camp Dragonfly is a project that we have been working on for some time now. We are coming up this year in August on our 5th anniversary. And it is, thank you, it is through your ongoing support and generosity in all of the small and big ways that you've continued to support this to happen. We are excited to tell you all that in 4 years we have supported over 160 families to have their trans, gender diverse, gender creative, and gender non-binary kids join us at camp. We gather every year in both the winter and the summer to have some time together, build connection, and build community. We are beyond excited to gather again on February 19th for Dragonfly Winterfest. So for those of you who are looking for a volunteer opportunity, we would so welcome your presence. Perhaps you'd like to come and help us cook a small meal and serve it. And otherwise, please look forward in August. We're going to have a birthday party. I'm hoping that it means we'll get the opportunity to see each other all in person, likely outdoors. But we would welcome your presence and the opportunity to celebrate with all of you. So thank you. Know that your commitment to doing this work has made it possible for all of these kids and all of these families from as far south as Okotoks and as far north as Yellowknife to come and to know that they are valued members and loved by this community.
I love the day before camp. I love the idea that the kids are at home, getting excited and being a little bit nervous. It's just this energy that feels like it reaches out into their supper tables from us to them and back. We're ready to welcome you in, and they're ready to be welcomed in. It's such a good feeling the day before camp.
And when you open it up?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I know, right?
Moment.
You got it? Here we go. Dragonflies, unite!
So when they come to us on Friday night, most of them are kind of nervous. For some of them, it's like their first summer camp, or it's the first time they've been in a space with other like trans or gender diverse kids. And so you can kind of feel the nervous tension in the room. They're not really sure. They're trying to get a feel for what it's going to be like. And then Saturday morning, they come in and they've got all this swagger and they've got all this confidence and they just like own the space and it's theirs completely. And so to like see that transition and to see that like click in their minds of like, this is mine, like I own this, I'm safe here, and like I'm in control here is just like such a like, combination of really powerful but also really humbling to watch that happen.
Camp Dragonfly. It's a day camp for trans, non-binary, gender creative kids and their siblings and friends. It's just a regular summer camp, which I think is so nice. I guess what's different though is it is totally designed as a safer space. Kids can opt in and out of what they want to do. Typically for a lot of kids, they don't get a lot of choice in their life. If you're involved in mainstream schooling, your schedule is set for you, you do all these things. Mom or dad or caregiver tells you what your daily schedule is. So at camp, we really want to encourage and we embrace kids making choice about their lives. And whether that's like gender identity things or gender diversity things, but also simple things like I want to go to drama and not go to cooking, or I want to do neither of those things. So we really try and build this culture of like believing kids and trusting kids and empowering them in their bodies and in this space to be leaders. And then I think the other thing that sets us apart, in particular from maybe other like trans camps, is like, yes, we are a trans camp, but our focus really is like on having fun, building community, creating connection. Yes, our campers are trans and that's certainly a part of camp, but it's not our primary focus. We just want to build community, be together, have fun, play, grow, learn, connect. So it's more about embracing that side of summer camp.
Hi. Hi, I'm May, and this is Jakob.
We moved to Canada in 1998. At that point, we decided to join the Presbyterian Church for no other good reason, but it was a denomination that we knew from South Africa. We felt very comfortable in the Presbyterian Church until in 2005, when we moved to Edmonton, and we realized all of a sudden that the whole debate over gay acceptance in the church was far from over.
We were very involved in both our Sarnia and Edmonton congregations, but were utterly appalled when General Assembly wouldn't even take the vote on gay inclusion, and instead directed congregations to go back and engage in a year or so of what they called prayerful consideration. On examination, this decision not to even take a vote seemed to be more rooted in a fear of offending their current congregants than a desire to do the right thing. This was evidenced by the number of conversations we had with people, telling us how when the United Church voted for inclusion, they lost so many of their members to the Presbyterian Church.
At first, we tried to work through session and to try and persuade our congregation to take an independent stand on this topic, or at the very least to start talking about inclusivity. This was met with a lot of sympathy, but no action.
Beginning to realize that despite strong voices in favor of gay inclusion, change within the Presbyterian Church seemed very unlikely in the foreseeable future, we decided to stage our own little protest. This started with the introduction of a motion into session asking them to accept that Jakob and May are in a mutually exclusive, loving, heterosexual relationship. This was greeted with some degree of amusement, and then ultimately with, come on, what's up with that? It's just ridiculous. And we said, exactly. And it's just as ridiculous to ask gay people to ask forgiveness and acceptance for being who they are.
We then formally resigned from both the congregation and the Presbyterian Church at large. The response from the mother church was, to say the least, weak.
Imagine our joy at discovering SSUC, where everyone is welcome, where gender, sexual orientation, faith-based or lack thereof are of no import, where you're not just welcome, you belong. We have never belonged to a community which is more affirming and supportive. We've never enjoyed such meaningful Sunday messages, and we have never felt such spiritual peace as we have at SSUC over the past 5 years. Small wonder that I spent the first 6 months during services weeping copious and cathartic tears.
So thank you very much to all of those who had the courage many years ago to take a stand for what is right, to build a nurturing and a safe environment for all, and which we can embrace today.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Sean Gray, and I'm making this video to celebrate SSUC's Affirming Anniversary. Yay! Congratulations! I am so grateful that a community exists where people are open and free to explore their spirituality and have a safe and inclusive space, judgment-free. I'm really proud that SSUC exists and continues to be a community that is inclusive and safe for queer people to explore their spirituality. As someone whose spirituality is very holistic and nature-based, I've always really appreciated that SSUC has that sort of natural spiritual exploration to it, gratitude for water and for trees and for nature. And so I think that is so important to having a healthy spiritual lens in the world. I've been a part of SSUC pretty much my whole life, with coming in and out of the community. I'm really grateful that years ago I was able to collaborate with SSUC and a couple of community members to create Rainbow Connection, which was an all-ages queer dance party. We had about 5 or 6 dance parties, and they were all amazing. They were so much fun. There was so much love and inclusivity in these dance parties. All ages coming together to dance, to play, to make art. We had hula hoops there. It was fantastic, and I will forever cherish those memories of those all ages dance parties. And I remember always leaving with my gratitude cup overflowing and feeling very bubbly and light and just having so much fun. And I'm so grateful that SSUC, took the time and energy to build that inclusive and safe environment for people to come and express themselves and enjoy and meet new people. And it's just amazing, and it's incredible to have a community that is welcoming to LGBTQ2S+. It's incredible to have a community that does so much for the Rainbow Refugee Program, bringing people to Canada and giving them a home and a community so that they can kind of launch their new life in a place where they will hopefully be more accepted and loved and not be judged based on their sexuality or their gender. And so I think it's amazing. I love it. I'm so proud that SSUC is in our community, making our communities better, giving people an alternative to, the dogmatic religious kind of doctrine that exists in our world, and that SSUC has a more like loose, nature-based spiritual expression and exploration, and I think that needs to happen more, and I'm really glad that SSUC is kind of like a pioneer of that. And so yeah, I've always had positive experiences with SSUC, and I'm so grateful that y'all exist, and to everyone doing the hard work to maintain this community, maintain the building, who greases all the wheels to make it keep running. I'm so grateful for you and all the work that you do, and keep it up, because the world needs more of you. So happy Affirming anniversary. Take care, everyone. Thanks.
I remember in my previous church life, when I was at with another congregation, we had Lois Evans and somebody else from the congregation here came to our church, the church that I was going to talk to us about becoming an affirming congregation. And I'm not quite sure who instigated that, if it was SSUC or if it was our church. But anyway, they did a very good presentation in my mind, because I knew who I was at the time. I was seeing Rod. Well, I was living with Rod, I think, or maybe it was before. It was in our early stages. Anyway, our congregation had a discussion about it. It was a very short discussion. It really didn't go anywhere. And at that point, I realized, I think my time has come here. And Rod's father was in the process of moving to Edmonton, and we knew we would like to try and find a church for him. So we started coming to SSUC, and that's 13 years ago. Several years ago, I was involved in one of our refugee committees, and we had just got started into it when Chris or Nancy, I think it was Chris, came to me and asked me if I would consider leaving that committee and starting to work on another committee that was going to deal with a single person rather than a family of 6 like the first committee was. And at that point, we also brought Rod into the whole story. And that was for Fuad, who was here, we brought in quite a few years ago now. Anyway, in the very beginning, there was problems with his accommodation. His accommodation wasn't going to be ready for the timing of when Fuad came, and so we were asked if Fuad could stay with us. So Fuad moved into our house for about 2 weeks, and it gave us a lot of one-on-one time with Fuad, which I think was very helpful for him. And then he moved into his roommate situation, and that lasted for a while. And then we helped him with a transition into a second housing arrangement. And then sometime after that, Fuad moved on to Toronto, and we still keep in touch with Fuad. We by email and text mainly, but we know that he is very happy there, and life is moving on for him. So that's all been great. Rod and I have been together for just over 20 years, and we have seen many changes in the LGBT community. Being gay doesn't seem to be an issue. 20 years later, the 20 years prior to our getting involved with one another saw a major change, and there's been major changes in the 20 years that we've been together. Our relationship with our children, our siblings, and Rod's ex-wife have never been better than they are right now. We are looking very forward to traveling east to Toronto at the first part of March to be part of Rod's son Justin's wedding. Yes, we're looking really forward to this new union, and Justin has been a big part of our family over the last couple of years with COVID. So we wish him all the best. We've been very happy here, and we just really appreciate everything that SSUC as an affirming congregation is trying to do for the LGBT community.
Happy affirming anniversary, SSUC. I am just here to tell you a bit about my experience with being involved in an affirming congregation and spiritual circle. I am so thankful that I was there and my boys were there. When your kids are young, you don't realize who they're going to grow up to be. There's all this endless possibility. And when Sean was young, I didn't know that he was going to grow up to be an openly gay man. And I could have easily had him going to a spiritual group of people that were not accepting, that said hurtful things, that said mean things. And I am so thankful that I didn't. So it's good to have affirming congregations, safe spaces that accept everybody, that meet people where they're at. It is so important for the transgender community, the queer community, the gay community, everybody, because everybody deserves a safe space. The other thing too is after my first divorce, I went to a few different churches and it was very interesting because I just wanted to explore a bit. I'd already been at SSUC a long time. My kids were grown and I explored and I didn't find anything accepting about the LGBTQ community because I asked. I already had an openly gay son and I asked. And so I think it's very rare still today to find the building, the big group, and the institution that is LGBTQ inclusive. Not just I'm going to accept you and because you're a person, but I am going to make you know that, you're enough, you are loved, you can be here, you are welcome here. It's such a wonderful spiritual and inclusive place. Not just acceptance, but really you're enough. You are okay just as you are. Be who you are and come and join us. And I think that's what I love about it. And I'm thankful that it was there when my kids were growing up. And I'm thankful it's still here because I guarantee there's a lot of parents out there right now raising 5 and 6 year olds, and they have no clue that their child in the years to come is going to grow up and their truth will be to be transgender, to be gay, to be non-binary. And we need these spaces. These spaces are critical to keep them there. And think about that if you have younger kids, because we don't know, and as a parent, I'm glad that I didn't contribute to the world of harm of my son being gay in what he experienced and what he saw. I made it easy for him. And the world didn't always make it easy for Sean, but I did. And some of my family did, and his brother did, and his friends did. So, yeah. So I'm really thankful for SSUC being affirming. And I'm sorry we can't be together. I miss everybody. It's been a long time. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and greetings from Vancouver Island. We are so glad to join you to celebrate this 23rd anniversary of SSUC's commitment to be an affirming spiritual community. Today, I'm remembering another January day 19 years ago when I sat in the lounge at SSUC with an intimidating number of you to be interviewed for the ministry position that was coming available because of the retirement of Bob Hetherington. At the time, I was serving as minister in Northeast Edmonton at Buchanan Eastwood United Church on a part-time basis. And I was also practicing law on a part-time basis. If I were the successful candidate for the full-time position at SSUC, I'd have to be willing to put all my employment eggs in what I had years earlier discovered to be a very fragile basket in the church, a basket of don't ask, don't tell. I had good reason to be highly suspect of risking being fully employed by a church, having previously experienced it to be a very unsafe place to be someone who wasn't heteronormative. SSUC was the only congregation in Alberta I would have even considered applying to at the time as a partnered lesbian woman. It was the only affirming congregation in Alberta at that time. A few weeks after the interview, a delegation of search committee members turned up unannounced in the pews at Buchanan Eastwood. One of them was carrying a clipboard, which I assumed had some kind of checklist, along with a stopwatch, which I presumed was to time the length of my reflection. I must have been concise enough that Sunday because shortly after that, I received a phone call from the co-chair of the search committee telling me that they wanted to recommend me to the congregation for the position. When I spoke to the search committee about the congregational vote to approve me for the position, I emphasized that it was essential that it be clearly communicated to the congregation that I was in a committed relationship with Dawn Elizabeth Waring. I hoped that by using Dawn's middle name, it would be very clear that I was partnered with a woman. And I wanted to be very sure that SSUC was not just affirming of those who took their place in the circle, but was ready to employ a partnered lesbian woman who didn't want to live or work in any closet. On a sloppy Sunday morning when I was in Winnipeg, I received a phone call to let me know that the congregation had voted overwhelmingly to offer the position to me. Several months after I settled in here with you, that same co-chair of the search committee told me that someone had come up to her after the congregational vote to casually ask about my partner. Now, Don, what does he do? Clearly, someone had misheard, had missed that very important Elizabeth. Over the years that we've shared together, I learned that I could truly trust our commitment to be an affirming community, that I am genuinely affirmed and accepted whether my partner's name is D-O-N or D-A-W-N. But it has made all the difference to us that it didn't make any difference to you. Happy 23rd anniversary. And may our affirming journey take us to amazing places that we have yet to imagine.
true selves. We are the freedom to love out loud. We are the prism, we are the bone. We are the friends that stand, that march so proud. We are the wonder of our true selves. We are the freedom to love out loud. We are the prism.
Friends, it's a day of celebration, but we're reminded that life carries on, even in celebration. Real life is a combination of all things, celebration and grief. And so I share with you a difficult piece in my life. My dad went into hospital on Thursday, and this morning he died. We're community together, and I know that you are there on the other side of this camera, just as willing to support me as you are each other, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you to all of you for being there. I've spoken with Nancy today, and I've got a good hug from Pam this morning, and I know we'll walk together through this difficult time, and I thank you for being a support for me and for my family. As we strengthen our intentions with one another, we put all of life into each other's hands, and we know that we support and encourage one another. And so let's speak words of encouragement to each other, and I will do my best to hear them this morning. Thanks, Pam.
We are one. When one celebrates, we all celebrate. When one suffers, we all suffer. May we ever seek new ways to be support and encouragement for one another, affirming the worth of each person. May we always celebrate the wonder and wisdom of our place, one among many, in this planet's natural diversity. May we discover every day ways to honor the value and uniqueness of each person's experience, journey, and story. In the beauty of community, in our need for each other, we pray as those born of light. Amen.